It's Tuesday, Left.
That's right.
It's Tuesday. This is going to be a really special show because this is, we talk before the show, we script the show, we talk the day before the show, like what do you want to talk about, this, that, and the other. Then some days, certain things just happen when you wake up. You see certain things, you read certain things, and the show creates itself, right? So we're going to have real talk today. Real talk about recruiting at Notre Dame. I'm going to get some input that I got this weekend from talking to, let's just say, several Chicago recruits.
Okay.
I'll leave it at that. We're going to have real talk about Justice Scott. Remember, we talked about Justice Scott yesterday, and I said Notre Dame feels very confident about where they sit with Justice Scott. I was like, they would love to get the last official visit in June.
Yep.
And I said, but they are 70 miles away from Chicago. It's not like a visit from him that needs to be set up, told. He can wake up one morning and say, you know what? I'm driving down to South Bend to kick it with, which I would say, if this was based upon the head coaches, now this is Shaun Davis talking. This is Shaun Davis, right? I guess so you could say this is my head coaching crystal ball or whatever. If this was based upon who he would want to play as far as a head coach, it's not even close.
Not even close.
If it was just left up to who the head coach of the program is, it's not even close. Not even close what the decision would be. But there are other factors. There are other factors that go into this. So we're going to have a real talk about that. Then Left, I had two conversations this morning. Hopefully one of these guys have actually been on the podcast, and I'm hoping to get the other one on with us because I was talking to him about some other business ventures that we're trying to get into. But I had a conversation with Jared Payton, and I had a conversation with Simeon Rice. And I said, you know what? I'm going to have a conversation about player safety on college campuses. And what inspired this was both of the conversations. And also what inspired this conversation is what's going on with Ja Morant. Right? Neither one of us believe Ja Morant is hard. Neither one of us believe he's a gangster. None of that. But is he wrapped up in culture? Things of that nature. It's important because when you talk about safety, I expect Ja Morant, as many NBA players or NFL players, the only players in the city of Chicago that can walk around and no one knows who the heck they are the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox. Like if you see them in the street, you wouldn't know who they were. They just look like regular dudes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if you see a 6'9" guy walking down the street, you assume he hoops. You assume he does something. Right? You see a 6'2", 320-pound guy walking down the street, you assume like, okay, this dude does something.
He does something.
Baseball players, dude, they do. Dudes are like 5'10", 170, 5'11", 190. They look like everyday people, right? And unless you really are into the sport, you wouldn't recognize them if they were walking amongst everybody else on a normal day downtown Chicago.
Right.
Things are a little bit different. And we pointed out yesterday that you will have this is perfect because I thought about bringing a guest on and talking. I said, you know what? Malik can speak to this. I can speak to this. And I was given permission by Simeon Rice to talk about a couple of experiences that we had in Champaign. There's nothing wrong with John Morant having, he has a right to have a gun for protection. But I would venture to say if a college athlete, we had it with Brandon Miller, right? Brandon Miller is about to be the second overall pick in the NBA draft. A lot of people are upset. They feel like he should be in jail.
Mm.
Brandon Miller had a gun. It was his gun that was used in an unfortunate murder.
Right.
And I think I need to point out, or we need to have the conversation as to why the college athlete needs protection. Because I think if you heard most people, whether it's talking about Imani Bates, who
Mm.
got stopped, right? Had a gun, went to trial, ended up pleading out, getting a lighter, whatever. Okay. Um, the point is, most people, most college fans would ask the question, why do you need a gun?
Right.
That would be the question. Why do you need a gun? It makes no sense. Why do they need guns? And so we thought we'd just have a really open conversation, maybe give a few examples to kind of explain why things are the way they are. There were a couple of unfortunate incidents, I think, when you were at Notre Dame, where players were attributed with having a firearm. I use the word attributed because the firearm was said to be someone's during the stop or in the vehicle or whatever. It wasn't like someone was brandishing the firearm or anything like that. The firearm just happened to be attributed to that individual. Apple Podcast, Spotify,
Mm.
YouTube. Subscribe, thumbs up, hit the like button. CFB Nation, exclusively in the fall. Leave your comments, leave us 5 stars. It's the Lucky Lefty Podcast. We spin it different.
That's right.
Now I'm going to ask you a question, Left. You feel free to answer. Um, feel free to answer the way you want to answer. During your time as a player at Notre Dame, were you around firearms, or did you ever personally feel the need to have a firearm?
I didn't. I mean, maybe it's because I think it's just different because I started in at Notre Dame where you it's not the environment where you feel like you would need one. But then, I've seen guys that transferred to Notre Dame that they had one, but it was just that's the way, that they operated, but it was on a legal thing. Like Avery Sebastian transferred in from Cal.
Mm.
He had one legally, but it was like his thing. It was cool. He was like, oh, it's, check out my license thing, that sort of thing. But it was never on a brandishing, I'm like you to know I have it on me. You know, he had it in the case and everything. He just said, you know, that's just, you know, some guys I think it's just a masculine thing. Guys like that type of stuff. I don't see it as an issue,
Yeah.
especially if it's just something you have. And you know, the right and wrong way. I mean, I don't know how to, you know, other than the laws, would you just think of it morally?
Yeah.
Some situations you need one around, not necessarily you in threat of using all the time, but it'd be dangerous out here. You know, you got all type of
Yo. Yo.
so
That is something
people
that
pick and
you
choose, you
you just threw me the alley oop. So allow me, I throw you the alley oops. You're the better athlete. You dunk them.
know.
I'm about to lay this up off the backboard really
That's
nicely.
right. That's
All
right.
right. These havens of education across the nation are beautiful places.
That's
You
right.
walk the campuses, it's a beautiful vibe, higher learning, history, north, south, east, west, wherever you go across this nation. There's some fabulous, fabulous campuses of higher learning. And they usually take up multiple acreage within a municipality or a city. Unfortunately, once you step foot outside of that campus, the wolves are real. The wolves are real. And you say, well, Shaun, what do you mean by that? You go to Champaign. Champaign Urbana was a beautiful campus when I was there. I don't even recognize it now, Left. It is like utopia
Mm,
for kids. Like the stuff that they have access to now is just absolutely incredible. Just
right.
incredible. But there's one thing that's never changed about Champaign Urbana, and that's the townies. Now, I
The
don't,
townies.
that's the townies. Now, I don't know what they call them in other locales, but in Champaign Urbana, they will call townies. My brother, when I go to see my daughter, let me tell you something. Palm trees, architecture is beautiful. That USC campus is a sight to behold.
A sight to behold now.
You turn left and walk 3 blocks,
And it's the 3 blocks ain't that long now.
3 blocks left. The wolves, the wolves are there. And I'm here to tell you that one of the top targets in any college campus or any city where a college campus is, the athletes are the top targets. They're the top targets of the wolves, no matter where you go. There's a reason why the townies end up at the same parties as the top athletes. Try to talk to the same girls as the athletes. They're trying to stir the pot. They're trying to create conflict, trying to create reason, opportunity. There's so many times that I was reminded of this morning during our conversation down in Champaign, where we would go to a house party and we would say, yo, who are these dudes? Like, we don't know these dudes.
Right.
Like, man, I thought I knew everybody, especially, at Champaign, right? We only made up 1.2% of the student population left.
Mm,
I'm talking about African Americans at that time. We literally made up 1.2% of the student population. So at that point, all of us either came from East St. Louis, Chicago, or the suburbs. That's it.
That's
So
right.
we all knew each other. We all knew each other. Oh, okay. I know. Yeah, 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 yeah. So we get to a spot and we're looking like we don't know who are these guys. And then all of a sudden things pop off.
Yeah, all of a sudden, yeah.
All of a sudden things pop off. And it's like, yo, these young men, they go to these campuses, despite the culture they come from. That's a whole nother issue left. Because if you come from down south, holding a handgun is almost like getting a driver's license.
Yeah, it's like a thing.
It's just a way of life.
But before it became a hyper inflated issue on TV, people all having guns in around and guns in the house wasn't a bad thing to have as a perspective. It was just the thing to have. People had all type of stuff.
Yeah.
But it was in the light. It was in a different light and it was treated different. And it wasn't as big of a concern as it is now.
And I just want to point out, because I'm really trying to be fair to the college athlete, understanding, as Left said, no, I didn't feel the need, but some guys that transferred in or had a different perspective felt differently. I don't know what the outside of South Bend is like, bro.
Mm.
Like I could tell you what the outskirts of Champaign Urbana is like. Um, Champaign Urbana is a campus with a lot of money, and then the city outside of that, not so much. So now you have a city that has this bastion of money and everything else that is total opposite of what everybody else in the city lives and feels on a daily basis. And there's jealousy, there's envy. The students come down there, and the jobs that would be available to certain people, the students take those jobs. It's just a lot. And you create this atmosphere, and the wolves or the bad people that are anywhere in society. This has nothing to do with ethnicity, anything like that. The wolves are out all over this world in each and every city, right? They're looking to see whom they can devour, left. And college athletes all over this country feel like, especially if they have a car they're going to be driving around, they feel like they need protection. And they keep firearms for protection. Now, we say that, a lot of people are going to gasp. Why in the world would any player on Notre Dame feel like they need a gun?
Well, you also got to think too. These kids is just like our parents. We don't know our parents before we got here, right? Our parents were totally different people before we got here. We don't know that side of them before they were parents.
Mm,
So the things that happen after we're here and we're witnessing, it's like, oh, this is a totally different person. It's
yeah,
no different than how Notre Dame recruits the guys on the fringe. They get up here, they can't fit in, but it's like, what do you expect? They coming from an environment where Notre Dame is just on TV,
yeah,
where their whole life is totally different. And you're telling them, when they first get here, all right, you can't do this, you can't smoke no weed, can't do none of this. But this is an everyday thing for some kids back at home.
mm,
So now you're saying go cold turkey, and if you do something, we're gonna punish you. We're gonna put you under crazy restrictions, and you better keep your grades up. But the kid's grades was on fringe. We barely squeeze him in here. He got some tendencies and things he likes to do off the field because all of us do our research about recruiting kids.
yeah,
That'd be the crazy thing to me. You recruit the kid knowing what he's coming from.
Yeah.
You sit in that same kitchen shack that you flew all the way down to hot little town Florida. You see about 67 kids in the house, and you tell them, "Hey, we're gonna put you in boot camp, quote unquote," because it's different. Is because you got to follow different rules.
Yeah.
And if you don't do what we tell you to do, and you mess up, we send you back here. It's like I think it needs to be a level of support if you bring in those type of kids in, or you
Well,
recruit the kids. You know, it's one of the two.
you can't control. You can't control everything in recruiting, right? Like you like a kid. The kid comes from the mud, goes to a private school. The structure of the private school, look, dude. If you saw the neighborhood of the house on 118th Estate in Roseland on the south side of Chicago, the Ninth Ward, that Simeon Rice grew up in with his parents, his grandparents. I think it was like 20 people in this house. I remember when we would go sit on the porch and wait for him to come out and play football at the park. We couldn't name all of the kids that were in the house.
Mm.
This is the mud. This is where he comes from. So to take that and go to Mount Carmel, which is the most structured shout out to the legendary Frank Linty, head coach, gives him structure, gives him the opportunity to grow. He ends up in Illinois, goes on to, in my opinion, to have a Hall of Fame career. But like you said, Left, you don't know the background. You don't know the trauma that took place on that block. You don't know the trauma that took place in that house.
That's right.
You just don't. So Illinois didn't really know what the heck they were getting in totality. But one
I
thing they
don't know if
did,
that's true. I just don't know if they can put that plausible deniability anymore on
that's my point.
the recruiting these
You have to know because they probably went and watched him in Mount Carmel and never got an opportunity to really go. All the meetings probably were at the school with the family and Coach Linty. Everything was in a certain environment. They never came to 118th Estate because I know how Mount Carmel runs things. That wasn't how things went. So they come down and they wonder, yo, who is this dude? Who is this brash comedian, outgoing? Like, who is this kid? Oh, that's the kid from 118. That's not the Mount Carmel kid. Who is this kid that can recognize dangers in certain situations? That comes from 118. That doesn't come from 63rd and Dante. And look, that is, I just want people to understand these young women and these young men. And I think someone put it up, one of our listeners said, when they lived in South Bend, students used to get robbed all the time. And that's why the administration ended up buying everything on Eddy Street and building.
Wow. Come on now.
Well, that's what one of the listeners said.
My thing is, how many kids got to get robbed? We got to be hundreds for you to be like, you know what? Let's just buy the block. So we can eliminate the hundreds of kids. If you talking about 5 a year,
yeah,
you telling me Notre Dame was like, man, these 5 kids a year getting robbed. We need to buy the entire Eddy Street block to prevent that. Come on now, we ain't going.
Well, I mean, the normal
for that.
The normal action is for universities to buy up property around them.
We agree with that, but don't blame counties now as a response for safety. We need to buy your entire area.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Just say you want to expand. Don't be. I don't be liking that.
Absolutely.
Don't be talking about,
Absolutely.
oh, we scared, so we need to buy your land. No, no.
So you made a great point. Like when you get young men to your campus, you really don't know. You don't know everything, right? And then all of a sudden,
They know everything because
so you think they know everything.
some players on the team get treated a little differently and supported a little differently
Hmm.
by the coaching staff. Some kids that are your best players that may not be able to keep up with the grade. Like a Tuit. For instance, I give you a great story.
Uh huh.
Spring, I'm in there early. First class. I'm in there with Tuit. Didn't see him after the first class. Saw him the last day of class to take the test. Now our rules for the team is you going to class. Ain't no way around it.
Right.
You going to class. And you sitting in there, you doing the homework. But with Tuit, and on top of that, if you're not doing well in class, you going to study hall.
Hmm.
That you just going. This is what it is. But to it, on the other hand, it's one of those don't ask, don't tell nothing. To it, you're not going to. You ain't worried about coach calling. I already talked to coach. Oh, okay. All right. How you get extra time on the test? I talked to Sarge. It's all good. I talked to the teacher. Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Don't you get a grade for attendance? You never hear how you
Yeah. Yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
We good. Coach come get him personally from class. I'm like, Coach, you ain't never walk with me to class. Oh, okay. But it's Stefan to it. He graduated too, passed the class flying colors. I don't know how. I never saw him, and I was at class. But you also know where Tua came from. But if Tua does his job, Notre Dame gonna do his job, their job. Okay, Tua, we know you don't like these certain class whoop de whoop. We're gonna work with you. Just don't be making a scene. Don't be making it too much commotion about this. And usually it works out. We got guys that get certain help from certain people on campus, and
Hmm.
you know, not everybody,
Yeah.
but the ones you're gonna have to work with. So I don't like the whole, oh, we didn't know this kid was like this, or da 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 da. So it's an interesting dynamic on the team. Because you
Yo.
think you spend every day with these guys.
Yeah.
Every day you're around 108 of your teammates. Every day in some aspect. So to not know and all of that is just, you know, the coach.
So when you recruit kids, right? Not only are you trying to figure out who they are athletically and academically, but you should be trying to figure out who they are as a person.
That's right.
Do they fit the type of young man that you would love to coach? And that's cool because everyone is different. Anytime you connect a gun or a gun charge to a person, it gives them a stigma, right? Left, you and I know someone that was connected to a gun charge during his time in Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't that dude. He's not that dude. He's not that dude.
He's John Morant.
I don't. I wouldn't say he's John
I
Morant.
wouldn't say John Morant, but he, at that in those moments, he want to be like John Morant.
Not okay. Yeah,
For whatever,
that
it's weird. Whatever, I think
for
it's a
whatever weird reason.
thing.
Yeah,
I believe it's a testosterone thing where a person gets so like, "Ooh, this is macho." I'm flowing, you flowing, we flowing, and it's just like that danger kind of thing. Drives certain guys. It's like
yeah.
having pent up energy. I think, for instance, I talked about Avery earlier. Avery went to the gun range all the time. He didn't have no issues flashing and brandishing. He went to the gun range. I didn't know he went all the time, but that was his thing. So when he had showed me his strap and I get it. He got pent up energy, go and shoot big guns at the gun. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a way to release the energy. So I think for a guy that we know like that, it's definitely you gotta get your energy out in some way, and it just has to be more productive. Because we know you're like that.
So the conversation, man, it's just built around understanding that these college campuses, although students and players spend the vast majority of their time within the boundaries of these campuses, there is a world outside of this campus that, for the most part, is very envious of what's going on inside that campus, in that locale. Very envious, right? And everyone doesn't feel like they need to protect themselves in a certain. Or I take that back. I do feel like every one of the students and every one of the athletes feel like they need to protect themselves. Some choose to protect themselves with their decisions. Like, yo, I'm not going out this weekend. Like that's a way to protect yourself. Others choose to protect themselves by saying, you know what? I'm gonna make sure I carry my firearm.
I wish
Or
I'm
I'm
up.
gonna make sure. Right, exactly. Or I'll make sure I go in a group wherever I go. Or we're just not go, we're gonna party, we're gonna party in a certain area. And sometimes even when you make the best of decisions according to your logic, the craziest of situations can still find you somehow, some way. You know? And I remember we're in this big party and we're kicking it, and some jumps off, some townies are in there, football squad talking back and forth with the townies. Of course, Sim sees the football squad going back and forth, so he feels like he has to go grab his boys, grab squad, and get them out of there. Right? He has to. Me, I'm telling him, let's go. Like, what? Man, let's go. No. So, of course, if he goes into the fray, I have to go into the fray.
Usually.
So now I'm just standing there like I have no dog in the fight other than Sim. That's it. Things get heated up, right? All of a sudden, Sim's family that's down there for the weekend, just being who they are, just being who they are, walk up into the situation. What's up? Click, clack. Now it's like, dude, what are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
Thank God everybody got out of there without anything tragic happening on that night. But I promise you, it was one of those nights where I was like, man, you know how you say that prayer? Lord, if you just get me out of this, I promise you. I promise you I'll never get into a situation like this ever again. If you just get me out of this situation. Look, please, just get me out of this one. You know, and that's just how quickly things can escalate, right? So I said that to say this. My heart kind of went out after being very harsh on John Morant because of my experience and my conversations with my boys. I told you I talked to Jared Payton. Jared Payton lost a teammate to gunfire in Miami, if you remember Brian Powell. He lost a teammate. His boy was gone. And ultimately, I think they just solved the case a year ago. It was a former teammate that didn't cut it.
Oh, the Virginia thing.
You know what I'm saying? No, this is like the University of Miami back in the day. Defensive lineman Brian Patter, and they just found out who killed him recently. You got the Utah players, you got the Virginia players, all of this stuff, man. Dude, look, understand and pray, right? So instead of, I'm telling you, man, I did a total 180. Total 180, and I thank you for having people in my life and friends in my life that are able to remind me of situations and circumstances that I've been in or that they've been in to kind of level me off and keep me grounded. And to hear JP talk about losing his teammate and not knowing who it was, right? Because you have to understand, everybody thinks University of Miami. Miami is gritty. Like bruh, you make the wrong turn in Miami, and the football players know that they're targets down there. They know they are. So you always have to watch the way you move. You always have to watch the way you move. This is something that's consistent across this nation. And when we hear this news, it's quick for us or it's easy for us to be judgmental and state our case of where we stand. But more than that, man, whatever you believe, vibes, chakras, prayers, whatever you believe, just make sure that positive thoughts go out towards these young people within this young culture, that they move correctly, that they make sound decisions, and that at the end of the day, everyone can come home or make it home at night. That's it. Because left, I don't know what it feels like. Because I happened to be cool with the targets. I wasn't a target left when I was in Champaign. I just happened to be cool with the targets. I don't know what that feels like. Right? I don't know what it feels like to be a top 20 pick in the NFL draft and want to go party on campus or off campus, but you have to think about it. I don't know, and that's life. Those are decisions growing up that we all have to make. But I've come 180 on the John Morant thing. There's something there. I hope the young man sees the light and it is able to turn everything around. You know.
Yeah.
But I did want to take this time to have a real conversation about firearms, athletes, college athletes, especially, and people are like, why do we all hear these stories so many times? It's a lot of factors, man. Where these young men come from, the cultures they come from. You're combining different cultures within a locker room, and then a point of view of how they view where they are. Some Malik had a different view of the townies than somebody else on the team. You know, um, thank God Sim, when he was in Champaign, was very much a happy dude, non-combative, right? Always wanted to kick it and have a great time, right? So when things did pop up, he was able to really kind of just squash anything that could happen, right? And there were he had teammates that were immediately about it. Like you say something, it was like, what? It's like they gave Lou Tepper constant headaches.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's why we jumped this off with this conversation today because I don't think it's going to stop. I do think we're going to continue to see unfortunate situations with athletes and guns, and because it is definitely a mixture of culture and protection and needing to feel safe. And like you said, guys needing to feel like John Morant, right? Like you're not John Morant, you're not that guy. But for some reason, the testosterone gets you to a point where you feel like you have to move this way.
Yeah.
And it leads to unfortunate situations. And jokingly, Drunk Vigo says the Townies want all of that NIL, in my opinion, makes them even bigger targets. Now you really need to think about how you move.
Yeah, but not everybody knows about the NIL and which players have what, though. Not all of it is advertised. I mean, you really got to do your homework on some of the
Come on,
NIL
bro.
stuff these kids got.
Come on, the Wolves do their homework. You have your educated wolves, and then you just have your reckless wolves. The educated wolves, they do their homework. They do their homework. Lucky Lefty podcast. Thank you for those in the chat that allowed us to have that conversation, and hopefully, it gave you an insight into something, that we talked about as far as player safety and why football players decide to move the way they move sometimes, or just any athlete. You know, I don't think we've ever heard about an unfortunate shooting on the women's side of sports in college athletics. I don't think I've heard a story along those lines. So let's get into it. Real talk, recruiting. So this is where we're going to open up. I would like to say this: Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, CFB Nation. Lock us in exclusively on CFB Nation starting in the fall. We appreciate you guys. It's the Lucky Lefty podcast. Editable audio each and every day. The audio edible. We spin it different.
Yes, sir.
We come back, we're going to dig into this recruiting real talk. All right? Any question, any recruiting question that you have, put it in the chat. Real talk right here. Lucky Lefty podcast. So, Left, I happen to be, I've been dealing with, just so people know, I've been dealing with some health issues lately. You guys see me go off camera sometimes during the show. And when I go off camera, I'm normally blowing my nose, which is crazy. And like, because I become congested. And the issue is the more I talk, the more congested I get. And it's been frustrating. It's been happening for like over a month.
Really?
Yeah. And I've been trying to figure out what the heck is going on. I'm like, dude, I'm cool. As soon as I start to talk, I get congested. I'm like, man, what is going on? So I've had tests done, ear, throat specialists. They've taken a microphone, like a camera, up my nose, down into my throat. This is actually a cool little test, right? So they had me drink some water with blue dye. They had me eat some applesauce, and then they had me eat some goldfish to make sure that everything was operating correctly.
Okay.
Bro, one of the most amazing things to watch is the throat trigger to receive what's coming. It is amazing. Like it has a trigger that it hits to know that liquid or food is on the way. It opens up to receive it. And after it clears, it closes. It's one of the most, let me tell you something, man. It's just some things that I watch. This is me personally. It's some things that I see that just reaffirms my belief in God. It just reaffirms like, dude, no one who creates something like this. Like who just does that? It's amazing. It's amazing. So I saw a comment on the message board, and someone was asking where I was. All right. And I am still part of Irish Breakdown with the recruiting, but I haven't done a show with Ryan Roberts in a while, and it's been my schedule dealing with the health things, scheduling, having to leave our show, immediately run to the doctor, and it's it's crazy, bro.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
that's
So
pretty.
finally, so finally figuring some things out, trying to get it better, and hopefully the scheduling will get back. We plan to have the RTCF show rolling. If not this Saturday, the next Saturday with myself and Brian Driscoll. But thank you for those that have been asking about me on IB and the message board. That's what's been going on. But we're still locked in right here with the Lucky Lefty podcast each and every day. And we appreciate you guys so much for how you continue to support us, whether it be via YouTube or via the audio edible each and every day at Apple Podcasts and Spotify or CFB Nation. We appreciate you guys. So I had a conversation this weekend left with some young men that are 24 and 25 recruits. And I said to them, all these kids are from Chicago.
Hmm.
And I said to them, what's the buzz about Notre Dame? And to a man, they all said, honestly, the buzz is just the Notre Dame buzz is really just starting.
Hmm.
I said, what? Like, yeah, like last year or two, you really didn't hear anything about no one in the city was really because all the top guys talk to each other or know each other. And like nobody was really talking about Notre Dame. And one of these young men happens to be a 24 tackle who is being recruited by Division One programs, and he has a 25 teammate that recently took a visit to Notre Dame in April. And he said, yeah, he came back from the trip and he was like, yeah, it was an all right trip. I wouldn't go there though. And so I'm like, man, what? Why did he say he wouldn't go there? It's just like, man, they really didn't seem like they wanted me. It was just a trip. And this is real talk. This goes back to what we talk about with offers, right? An offer can be an offer, and then sometimes an offer can be a placeholder, and sometimes an offer can be something else,
Yeah.
right? So here's a young man who is also being recruited by Michigan, who is also being recruited by Georgia, who is also being recruited by a lot of top schools. And he goes to a visit in April to Notre Dame, and he's like, there was nothing special about it. It was all right. And the fact that Notre Dame is just now starting to build up a buzz among Chicago athletes, that was a troubling conversation for me this weekend.
Really.
Now we're gonna get to Justice Scott. We're gonna get to Justice Scott because this all connects. It's troubling to me, and I'm gonna continue to bang this drum because if they just don't feel like there's value in Chicago, then fine. That's fine. Let Nick Saban and Kirby Smart come find the value. That's fine.
I think that Chicago definitely being a place full of talent, being that close in proximity, has got to be a hotbed for us. Being in Chicago, it can be attractive to some kids with the talent that they have as a 4 or 5 star to look outside the area because of many different reasons. A lot of it is weather. A
Uh-huh.
lot of it is the hype around what the SEC may bring or what California has in store or whatever the case may be. But what Marcus Freeman is building and what he needs to solidify is that, yeah, all those places may be attractive, but right down the street is where you can be most productive and have the most success. And it's a more inward focus, I think, of building that success and having guys that come from Chicago have that success. But once we build it as an attraction, like Kings Island in Cincinnati, Ohio, they're gonna come.
Kings Island is a great experience, by
They're
the
gonna
way.
come.
Great experience. Went there as a kid.
It
Great
is.
experience. Left. Great
Yes,
experience.
it
So let's
is.
build. Let's build on this conversation. So I went on to say, like, so who's buzzing? Like, who's buzzing in
Mhm.
Chicago? They were like, oh, right now, Michigan. Michigan is like the biggest school in Chicago. Like everybody's talking about Michigan. Michigan's in on everybody.
Because
Okay,
they
who
hot.
else? Ohio State. Ohio State. But they said it's different though. They said it's Ohio State because Ohio State has this aura of being like the better school,
Yeah.
right? A school that puts players into the NFL. They
For the
said
Big Ten.
Michigan just they say Michigan just works. They said Michigan talks to everybody, they constantly contact everybody. Michigan staff just works, just works, just works. I said, okay. And then they said Illinois. They were like, Illinois is really starting to, you know, form a nice little relationship with the city and with the players in the area. And then I had a shock. A shock.
A
I was like,
shock.
what? Oh, I was like, what? They said Ole Miss.
Ever since Laquan Treadwell, Lane Kiffin's like, man, I got me a really good receiver up out of Chicago. I might have to hit that pipeline a couple more times.
And bro, I said Ole Miss. And they started explaining, like the coaching staff or several of the coaches are either from Chicago and have great relationships with the coaches in Chicago. And they went to explain it. I said, okay. But once again, it just went to the fact that Notre Dame is just starting to buzz. It really, I'll say this. This is what I gather. It's not even Notre Dame, it's Marcus Freeman.
Mm.
The attraction to Notre Dame for Chicago kids is Marcus Freeman. It's really not even Notre Dame.
Yeah, because they still not attach Notre Dame as the perspective of the cool or the hype train like Ohio State. It's just got that aura of, oh, we're the big time, putting guys in the league. You come with us, we give you an offer. It means a
Uh-huh.
lot. You next level. Notre Dame is like, we're not getting the credit for putting guys in the league for whatever reason. We put more guys in the league than a Michigan and these schools recruiting these guys
Yeah.
on a longer period of time.
Yeah.
On a longer period of time, not just the last 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
not just when Ohio State had a legendary coach. We've been doing this for a minute.
Yeah.
So Marcus Freeman is definitely that bridge. And I think it was a great move by Jack Swarbrick. More so a great move not to mess it up and to lose that connection that was the attractive piece of bringing guys in because of your head coach. If you ain't going to do the NIL, okay, fine. But there's got to be a reason kids are like, man, Notre Dame is the place. Beyond it being the fresh cut grass and the brochures with the pretty pictures. And even bigger than the 4 for 40.
Yeah.
They got to be like, man, I want to wake up every day and play for this guy. And then once Marcus Freeman puts guys in the league, now he's building that Dabo, that Nick Saban, that Urban Meyer, Jim Tressel, Nick Kirby Smart, or that if I go with this coach, Lincoln Riley, if I go with this coach, I'm getting to the league.
Right.
I don't is he gonna put me in position. And if he leaves, I'll probably go with him, aka Lincoln Riley. All his players, Deion Sanders. Trey, number one, think about it. Deion Sanders' impact in college football, obviously his personality, but because he's the best corner ever.
Mm.
So you're gonna get a Cormani McLean. You're gonna get a Travis Hunter. Because they're like, man, I'm going for Deion. I ain't going for no Colorado Snow. Man, I'm going for Deion. I ain't going no Jackson, Mississippi for no HBC. I'm going for Deion. Because if I go with Deion, he the best corner in the world.
Mm.
I'm the best corner in the world. If I just listen to him, Carnell Tate is too attractive as a top 5 receiver after you just see Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson and Jigba Smith. All those guys coming down the pipeline to be like, dang, I deserve to be amongst those elite group of guys because I'm a 5-star receiver. So I know if I'm just in the room and Brian Hartline just churning out top receivers all the time, I'm just going to happen to fall in line. I could just watch the film all day of Terry McLaurin,
Uh-huh.
Scary Terry, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. The list goes on and on. Jackson Jigman Smith. Look at all the success of guys in the recent future because of Brian Hartline. Look at Niele Ivy. She had a Sky, Enrique, John Morant his first year, K Mac, Olivia Miles, Jules. These are all guards. You think all those guards that are top like that going to Notre Dame because of it's Notre Dame? You think we would have pulled Enrique if it wasn't for Niele Ivy strictly?
Mm.
No. No. Once Sky started that role, it just kept going and going and going. So Marcus Freeman get that quarterback, just like Lincoln Riley got his quarterback, it's gonna keep going and going and going. So it's just a matter of being the right face, which we have, mixed with the right ability to get guys to the league, which we will have. And then Marcus Freeman can put his name in the Dabos and the Ryan Days and Urban Myers and Nick Sabans and Kirby Smarts of those. You go to these schools with this coach, the Michigans with Jim Harbaugh. Oh, you're gonna be set. Now you just gotta finish the job. Now you just gotta go and play. Because you're gonna get the right attention. You're gonna get coached the right way. Now you just gotta go win the games. As opposed to going to a Colorado State where it's like, man, I hope I get the right opportunity and the right offense and get coached right. And then I gotta do my part.
Yeah.
Why you think Florida can't stay on top? They can't keep a coach that they can trust.
You know what? Read this article because I don't want to talk about it. The Athletic put out a great article this weekend on the demise of the Florida program, which has shocked everyone in the SEC.
Yeah.
Like people are like just astounded that they've gone through like 4 coaches and can't get it right. Like you know how much talent is in Florida, and from what I hear, Gainesville is an absolutely beautiful place to go to college.
I mean,
So if you're an athlete, because I've heard Joakim Noah tell stories about when they decided to come back and run it back for a national championship.
oh, see, but that's see.
I'm talking from an athletic standpoint, from an athlete standpoint.
when
And
you
this
win,
this is pre-NIL. They didn't come back from NIL. They came back because
on that level,
yeah,
and then the football team winning too.
yeah,
Come on, you're not getting that. You get that. I'll tell you what. You will get what Joakim Noah experienced in them years when football was winning championships at the same time basketball winning championships back to back. You'll get that anywhere in college football. Anywhere. because the city won't know how to act. I mean, you get one season basketball win national championship Final Four. You turn around and go to fall football win national championship. You got Tim Tebow. You got Chris Leak. You got uh, uh, everybody you can imagine from a superstar level. Then you go right back to basketball. You got a Bradley Beal. You got another championship with Chris Brewer. Like, come on. They said it was so crazy. Like people was in the streets hanging off street lights and just you couldn't even. It was
Yo,
amazing. So when you're winning on all cylinders like that, you're gonna have it's gonna be stories that will never be replicated. For us at Notre Dame, we just need to win one. It don't even matter what sport, to be honest. It really don't matter. We win baseball, soccer, it doesn't. We just need to win. And don't let it be football or basketball.
yeah,
And if it's both in the same year, you will never hear the end of it. It'd probably be the best and worst thing to happen to Notre Dame. Because we're independent and we won a national championship through all the transfers and NILs and coaching changes and kids getting crazier and crazier. And we won doing it our way as an independent with all these merges and TV deals. And man, I don't know. That's why I'm like, I don't know if we should win right now. Because I don't know, because it would only get worse if we doing this. Because think about it, like we could probably save more money, cut back more. If we win it
when,
on, we would never give it NIL again if we won in this current time.
when you look at it from that standpoint, look, I just pointed out, I just wanted to point out, and really what drove this is a conversation I saw on the message board where someone compared Justice Scott's recruitment to Dante Moore's, right? And it was a back and forth. Some people pointed out things you said on this show about Dante Moore's recruitment and how they felt about the CJ Carr stuff. Somebody actually questioned your credibility when I don't know anybody else that's had multiple phone or face to face conversations with Dante Moore that covers Notre Dame. I don't. I don't know anybody else, but that's that's laughable to me.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: I don't think they're similar in any way, shape, or form. I think the one thing that stood out to me from that conversation is that the young players in Illinois feel like Michigan is outworking everybody. That's what it comes down to.
That's all it comes down
They're
to.
just outworking everybody. And I point to, once again, the very first conversation I had with Justin Scott in December. Not the first conversation I had with him, period, but the first conversation I had with him in December. His exact words were Michigan stands out right now. He gave me the reasons, and to me, it seemed like Michigan was the leader at
Mm.
that point in time. I spoke to the coach at St. Ignatius, and the coach indirectly alluded to certain schools could be doing more.
Mm. Now, what's more mean?
Come on. Well, in the recruiting world, they could be calling more, they could be checking in more, they could be doing. If one school is doing this, and you see all the other schools kind of chilling, laying back, you feel like, yo, This kid is a 5-star. Why isn't every school going hard? So it is a situation, man, where I don't know if the proximity of Chicago has made Notre Dame feel like they don't have to go as hard. Maybe they feel like they have time with Chicago kids because of the proximity. But whatever the strategy has been, hopefully that's been corrected. And hopefully the recruiting buzz will continue to grow and get better with the 25 class
Yes.
and the 26 class. Um, Brian Driscoll, during this same conversation, reiterated that Justin Scott does not have an official visit set up for Notre Dame. Justin Scott does not seem like he is planning an official visit for Notre Dame in the month of June. And yet, and still, Notre Dame and most people covering recruiting feel like Notre Dame is the clear cut leader for Justin Scott at this time. Now, Brian Driscoll did say that that makes him uneasy
Mm.
because he's like, I don't care how far Notre Dame out is, how comfortable they are, and how out in front they are, or how much of a lead they have. It's just uneasy that they're not getting an official visit during the month of June.
That is interesting.
But it goes back to what you said yesterday. At some point, with these big time kids, Notre Dame can only do what they can do.
Oh yeah, I mean,
And all they can do is go to the limit that's afforded to them and then let things happen
we
the way
really
they're
like
going to
that.
happen.
We really like the mature girlfriend that has got her ish together. She's pretty stable minded and is okay with letting go. We show you we interested, but we got a dad at home. We know we got love, so we just gonna it is what it is. We move on to the next, but we
Yeah.
definitely are not stuck, particularly on anybody individually, which is
Uh-huh.
healthy for a program because some programs sell their whole life on a recruit to lose them on signing day or something.
Yeah.
And now you backed up. It shows a different kind of mystique to a team that you put all your eggs in and couldn't get it. Well, what's that mean on the back end of it? I think
Well,
we're playing it right with Justin Scott and showing other teams out there that recruit Justin Scott like, look, I know y'all trying to poach, but we're not going to press harder if the kid's not feeling it.
as I said before, Notre Dame does not need to set up official visits for Chicago kids. It's not they're not hopping on a plane. They're not driving 300 miles. It's an hour trip. You can literally wake up and say, fall through,
Fall through.
fall through. Justin Scott could wake up one morning and say, Coach, I'm going to fall through today.
That's
No
how easy,
big buzz about it. Coach, I'm just going to fall through today.
that's how easy it got to be.
That's it. So it's unfortunate. That's what it is. It's unfortunate that a Catholic school kid from Chicago isn't locked up. Yes, as far as Justin Scott, Notre Dame was being outworked at the beginning of the process. Should they have been? Should they have been in that position? No. In my opinion, no, they shouldn't have. But that was the case. They were being outworked. You know who changed the tide when he showed up at the school? Marcus Freeman, which
Playing
goes which goes directly to what those young men told me this weekend. It's not even Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman has changed everything. And left, I submit to you that can be fine, good and dandy. You can have the right man at the helm, but eventually it's going to start feeling like 2018 NBA Finals. LeBron's putting up 51 in game one and still can't get over the Golden State Warriors
yeah.
because it's just him. That's what on the recruiting trail, it's just Marcus Freeman when it comes to these big guns. That's it.
Like they not listening to Al Washington. You know, Tommy Reese may have been a little help, but not too much. He's definitely in a position where it's like I got a Michael Jordan these situations. And I mean that's just the way it is right now. It's hard to see much out of that.
You know? So, and that's just a small picture of recruiting. But I thought it would be interesting to give you a glimpse, not to what the actual players are hearing and what they're seeing about Notre Dame. So, like you said, Left, we got the right guy to lead the charge. That's not a question. We definitely have the right guy to lead the charge. But you cannot get outworked for Chicago kids. You can't. That's that's easy. That's too easy. You cannot get outworked for Chicago kids.
No.
You can't. You can't. Heck, if you're Notre Dame, how do you get outworked for 5-star kids when you know you don't have the other things?
Yeah, when you know you don't have other things, I think that's a good point.
No one should outwork you for a 5-star kid if you're Notre Dame. All you have is work. We're just going to outwork everybody else because we can't talk about NIL. We can't sit up here and say these are the 5 defensive linemen we put into the NFL in the last 2-3 years. We can't say that. So what do we have? We're going to work our tails off. That's what we're going to do. We're going to win the mama. We're going to win the daddy. We're going to win the brother, the sister, the grandmama, the dog. We're going to win everybody in the household.
The way it's got to be, man. And I think, Marcus Freeman is figuring that out as time goes on, is that, the work with on top of what the obstacles are challenging enough, but it's going to take a Herculean effort to really get over it. And there's not much you can say for it other than just getting it done.
And I'm all for Notre Dame being a program where you have to recruit nationally because that's the excuse that's been given. Well, we have to recruit nationally. Okay. All right.
All right.
If you're recruiting nationally and you're going out and getting dudes nationally, fine. But when you going out and recruiting dudes, and just ignoring? Because you do know there's only, at this point, there's only one 5-star in the 24 class. You do know that, right?
Not a great feeling.
Guess where that 5-star is from, Left?
Where? Chicago?
Yes. Only one. He's
Only
from
one.
Chicago. The next one you're trying to recruit, where is he from?
Florida.
Chicago.
Oh, yeah, Justin Scott.
Chicago. There's another one that's top 50. Probably won't end up a 5-star, but he's high 4-star. More than likely, from what I'm hearing, he's probably going to end up in Michigan or Alabama. Chicago. I'm saying you can recruit nationally, bro.
That's right.
But you got dogs right down the road.
Right down the road, too.
And then in the 25 class, Tyron Turner from Chicago is another top 5 wide receiver in the nation. Maybe the wide receivers are the only value that's seen in Chicago. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. That's like if Jalen had gone to any other school besides Notre Dame, Notre Dame should have been put on probation as a program.
Yeah.
How do you let that kid out of Indiana go to any other school? How?
Yeah, if we let Jalen get out, then I don't know, man. But I made it a personal thing to get Jalen too.
And I'm glad you did.
Yeah.
I'm glad you did.
But I think CJ Carr on a lighter note is working hard like Marcus Freeman on the player side to get his guys. I mean, I'm sure he has a hand in recruiting one of the best classes, receiver classes that we've ever had. Because of CJ.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially keeping the class intact when your offense coordinator that promised you to start as a freshman bails on you.
That conversation this weekend really messed me up, Left. It just messed me up, man. It really, not because I expected to hear the teams that I heard, but I didn't expect to hear outworked. I didn't expect to hear that. No. And so we sit here and we worry about getting 5-stars, especially on the defensive line, pass rushing, quarterback. I don't know, bro. I don't know. I just thought we would have a real talk about recruiting, bro. Because that's my tidbit from the information that I put out and I'm giving right now to Notre Dame fans. Left from a recruiting standpoint, it's a lot of big time defensive players in the front line or that front four, pass rushing, defensive tackle that Notre Dame has a chance at coming down the stretch.
We're gonna have a chance at all of them, honestly. It's just how do we close the deal? Marcus Freeman is a huge deal closer for us. I think that's a huge boost in that department, but we gotta be good on the retention level and on the traction piece. Maybe we gotta dye Marcus Freeman hair like OBJ or something. Make him a tad bit, more hip. I don't know. But that's our lead singer. Marcus Freeman's our lead singer to the band, bringing in all the fans. But we need a nice elite drummer. Somebody that can hit a solo with Marcus Freeman getting a water break or something. Because right now the lead singer can only sing so many songs. Before people want to get up and dance, you know what I'm saying? Some live band.
Uh-huh.
Or get a hype man. Where our Flavor Flav at? Where Marcus Freeman hype man at? That he can go on the road and do just the same of bringing the attention. Maybe not close the deal, but keep him entertained, keep him in house, be his warm up act. We got to build the venue a little bit better, and I think we got the main attraction. Like we had Kevin Durant with the Sonics, but we got to take Kevin Durant to OKC. Market, better fan base.
Mm.
We got to take it up a level. We got our Kevin Durant. Now we need the other pieces around it to make it go.
Lucky Lefty podcast, man. Apple Podcast, Spotify. CFB Nation, conjunction with Irish Breakdown. We spin it different. I got Truman Dumel, as always, the ultimate Jets fan. Said, "What's Shaun? What type of impact would it have if the Bulls got Wemby with the number one pick? Shot Town back up,
Levine?
man. No cap.
Him and Zach Levine together? Nice.
Can I tell you something? I actually had a group chat with my guys this morning,
Okay.
and I said, "Am I wrong for wanting the Bulls to get the number two pick?"
Oh, and get Scoot Henderson?
No, I don't want Scoot. I want Brandon Miller.
Oh, and went women by you? How you say his
No,
name?
no, no. I said I want the number two pick because I know who's going number one. I don't want the number one
Oh,
pick.
oh, you already know. Yeah.
I don't want the
He,
number one pick.
that's right.
Just give me the number. I'm not even asking for number one. Just give me number two,
Give you number two, huh?
right? Because at least you get Scoot or Brandon Miller. And one of my guys was like, "Man, what's wrong with Scoot?" I said, "He ain't 6'9" with skills."
Yeah, like those first
I,
five picks of any draft got to be the freakiest, most unfair. All he needs is just a little accuracy type of players.
absolutely. So to answer your question, to get the number one pick would change the franchise. It would. I like
Brandon Miller.
Wimby. I like Wimby. I'm not saying I don't like him. I just I like wing players. I prefer wing players. Wimby is going to need somebody to get him the ball. That's just the way it is. He needs a guard. And if you don't have a guard ready for him when he gets here, it's going to impact the way he plays.
Mm.
Brandon Miller, you can give him the rock and say, "Move the heck out the way."
That's true. He's a good
You can
ISO guy.
you can get Scoot the ball and say, "Move out the way." So that's just
Not
the
at,
way I
not at
choose.
his size though. That's all.
Right. So that's just the way I choose to build my team. Just personal preference. That's all.
No, that's a good way to think about it though.
DJ Armageddon, I'm 46, but I see what my two sons go through in their early 20s. It's different, but still the same. If you have confidence, panties drop, period. Uh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I don't
I
know what
don't
you talking.
know.
Yeah.
That came from like the early conversation, but that's what's up, Armageddon. Michael Johnson, Sean Malik, do you think MF is spending too much time on the offense and not focusing on the defense as much because of the offensive struggles?
Well, you the head coach. You got to fix the fires. And in my opinion, the defense isn't on fire. It's just getting better. Offense, we have structural questions and leadership issues that we had to smooth out. But I believe we're on the up and up when it comes to that.
He said what I was going to say. Irisburg ends 84. There are some defensive studs coming out of shot the next couple of years. This is unacceptable to be outworked by these schools. Ohio State is the only one that should give us problems.
Um, Ohio State, I don't think is going to give us issues. I think we're going to give them issues. especially when we got beefed up at that safety position we got coming in. We really gonna give issues in. Um, I think our secondary is matching right now, provided we stay healthy. Any top receiving core that's going to be in college football this year. I don't think that's going to be uh, an uneven matchup in any circumstance. No matter if it's
Um,
and we playing the best receiver cores this year outside of
Facts.
maybe LSU or I don't even know who's a better receiver core right now than SC and Ohio State. Maybe Washington, but Washington got two guys. I don't know about the rest of their depth. Those two guys are great, but I don't
Yep.
know about the rest of their depth. Other than that, we're playing two of the top three best receiving cores in college football. And I believe that both of those, we're straight. Like, I'll take our guys
Right.
man to man the whole game. And I think we'll be all right considering all the other factors with the front seven included. I think we can play man against anybody in the country and hold our own.
Man, DJ Armageddon kind of explains it. He said that sounded crazy out of context like that. Said Vigo was talking crazy about Justice Scott needing big NIL dollars for them OnlyFans girls out there these days.
We need them.
Um, how can I say this without being disrespectful? Justice Scott is very much settled in that girl situation, and she is she's very nice and she's very easy on the eyes. I'll leave it at that.
That's right.
He has him one already. She lets you know too.
Sometimes they're the ones that keep you focused, you know.
Yeah, she lets you know, like,
But that's me there, player.
yeah, yeah. It's like, okay.
We got it, man. I ain't tripping, you know.
And does it without being vocal. That's the dope part of it.
Yeah. So you can work with that one.
Like, I don't need to say nothing.
She on her Savannah James.
I'm over here in the cut, but you know,
Yeah, no funny
right?
business.
Yeah, because you see homage being paid to her. That's how you know. Like you see cats walking up, like, "Hey, what's up? What's up?"
Yeah.
Like,
She
okay,
just had a little Savannah James. Shout out Ohio.
yeah.
You know.
So no, NIL money for OnlyFans and Justice Scott is. I know it was a joke by Drunk Vigo, but
We ain't gonna get him in trouble now.
nah, he nah. Plus, Catholic school in Chicago, I doubt very seriously he has a problem. Because was it Catholic? You went to a Catholic school, right, bro?
I did.
Did you all have sister schools?
No, I had a co-ed Catholic school. I wasn't crazy enough to be doing them all boys school.
Okay, where it doesn't matter. I think even if it's a co-ed school like St. Ignatius, they still have a sister school in Chicago, and they do all these networking events and stuff like that. Finding somebody, that's the last thing. That's the last thing. But
Straight
no,
up.
yeah, that's the last thing. Before we get out of here, left, what is what are your thoughts on the conference finals, bro, as they get ready to start tonight?
Man, it would just be great to see LeBron, a mature LeBron, get it done in the clutch, man. I think, like we said, LeBron's been here, done that plenty of times. Denver hasn't. And so, what is that momentum going to look like in the game? And you know, I'm excited to see a good matchup. I think in the Eastern Conference Finals, it'll be a good game. But it's funny because no, I don't really enjoy watching Miami play. Like it's kind of like a boring game to me, but I know it's going to be a good game. So I don't want to see Jason Tatum play bad until the fourth quarter and do good. I think that'll be a more interesting matchup than the Denver Lakers series. But I'd much rather watch the Denver Lakers series more than the Celtics Miami series.
The Lakers series is going to come down to ultimately two things: AD being consistent
Yeah.
and LeBron staying healthy. Because the longer he goes into the playoffs, that foot, it is what it is. He needs major surgery after the season, shooting it up, doing whatever he has to do to play. They're going to need another Lonnie Walker game. The others are going to have to contribute for them
Yes.
to beat Denver. Um, Denver is deeper. I think the addition of Kim Contavious Caldwell Pope was huge for them.
Yep.
I think Michael Porter is just iffy. You know, he one game he'll be on, the next game he'll disappear. That's who he is.
That's who he is.
But Bruce Brown, gritty defensive player, their bench is really solid, especially when they play at home. And Joker is just on one right now. He just is. He's just
Yeah,
playing good basketball right now.
yeah, he's just too good right now.
I just concerned. This is the first series where Anthony Davis can get into foul trouble.
Yes.
All of the other series, he can sit back, block shots, do all of that. He has to defend. He has to defend this series. Like Joker can put him on that box. To
Easy.
me, this is the first series where he has to stay on the floor. He cannot get into foul trouble. If Anthony Davis gets into foul trouble, it's a problem. I agree with you. That series is far more intriguing, even though I expect a repeat rematch from the game seven for the 7 game series where Jimmy Buckets missed a 3-pointer that could have sent them to the finals. He missed it. Boston went to the finals, had a great series against Golden State, who ultimately won in 6.
I think it's because Miami don't got enough superstars to be like, man, I can't wait to watch them. You
I look,
know?
Left. This is my honest opinion because I have not been impressed with Boston up until this point. I think when teams make it to the NBA Finals and don't win, there's so much adrenaline to that off season, and they start with so much fire, and that's why Boston got off to that big lead in the Eastern Conference early in the season because they were fired up.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometime when you get into the middle of the journey, you just want to get back to where you left, right?
Right.
And you lose a little focus. You're like, dude, we just want to get back to the finals. Like, just get us to the finals. That's that's what we're trying to do. I think being in the Eastern Conference Finals is going to wake Boston up a little bit. I expect Boston to play some of their best basketball they've played all postseason. I think Miami is going to continue to be scrappy. However, the difference of playing the Knicks, who only have one creator on the floor, which is Jalen Bronson, versus the Celtics, who constantly have 3 to 4 people on the floor that can create.
Because Al Horford is a man. That's a problem right there.
It's just totally different. Jimmy will win 2 games. Miami will make it tough, but ultimately Boston's going to win the series.
Unless Jason Tatum starts tripping.
Well, he's been known to do that. He's been known to do that. So it is what it is. It is what it is. He's been known to do that. But we'll see. We will see. Ultimately, what happens, we will see. Great show today, Left. Real talk concerning athletes, safety, firearms, recruiting. Things I heard from Chicago recruits this weekend should be interesting.
Should be interesting.
Man, the chat is funny, bro. Marcel, y'all were the number one seed. Miami was the number one seed last year, right?
Yes. No, Bucks were, weren't they?
No. Miami was the number one seed last year. The Bucks were 2. The Boston Celtics were 3. The Celtics beat the Bucks, and then they beat Miami. So that was a long time ago. That was LeBron Miami. No, that wasn't LeBron Miami. Because Boston never beat LeBron Miami, did they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so. They've been able to get away without Tyler Hero. This is the series from a scoring standpoint. They missed Tyler Hero.
100%.
Facts.
Because it can't all come from Jimmy, and Kyle Lowry only going to give you like 12. You know?
Facts. You know what time it is.
Petticoat. Petticoat. Petticoat Junction.
It's time to get petty.
Oh, we did a good job executing.
Now, you upset with something?
And fire up the Petticoat Junction train.
I just don't like you.
You don't?
No.
What is today's petty history? Petty Junction.
Petty Junction, Petty Story of the Day, brought to you by Onora Whiskey at OnoraWhiskey.com and Premium American Whiskey at OnoraWhiskey.com. Did you hear about this story out of Colorado, bro? Where a young man, age of 28, was pulled over by Colorado State Police for doing 54 in a 40 and was caught trying to switch seats with his passenger as he was inebriated. You know, that sounds like a story. Like if you know you messed up or you don't have your license on you, you know, you try to switch seats with your passenger. You know, I've heard of that before.
Yeah.
Not too wild. His passenger was his dog. The officers approached the vehicle and found his dog in the driver's seat. This idiot tried to pass his dog off as the driver of the car. Of course, he was arrested for driving under the influence.
Arrested for stupidity. just stupid.
It gets worse, Left, because the owner of the vehicle, along with another passenger, were both in the back seat.
Oh my God.
So the two people in the back seat didn't tell this idiot, dog, what are you doing?
So they
This
let
is
it
not
happen?
about to work.
Wait a minute. They watched this man do this. Well, he deserved to go to jail. They must not be friends with him for real. I don't know. You let your friend do that stupid stuff?
Love, bro. Man, I couldn't wait to put this fool on the petty train.
Fool, man, just a fool.
Oh, man. James Harden. if you are the one that indeed got Doc Rivers fired, it's a lot of players that can walk in and say, man, let this coach go. James Harden is not one.
Damn, James.
That's it, bro. Yo,
James.
that story out of Colorado is
Yeah, you lit. Everybody in the car should be arrested for just stupid.
I've never been in that situation though.
They all had to be drunk if they all let it happen. That's about as bad as Petty Train, Kwame Brown going over John Morant calling the NBA dumb boy. Crazy. We got Stetson Bennett in college for 6 years, not graduating.
Yo,
That's
wait a minute. Is that a true story? I saw you post that. Is that true?
Yeah, it's true. That's what they said. Now, obviously, I don't even know how you in college that long not graduating. But, maybe he gets his GED after he retires.
Wait a minute, man.
That's the word on the street.
Okay, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are you kidding me? Dude, this is via Sports Illustrated. University of Georgia quarterback Stetson Bennett didn't graduate after leading his team to back-to-back national championships.
See?
Bennett started college in 2017, and now that it's 2023, he's exited the years for college sports eligibility as he prepares to make an impact in the pros. After it was released that he indeed had not graduated from UGA after 6 years of college, he incurred some online trolling on social media. You know who went at him? Cardell Jones,
Of course, he should have. What the
who
hell?
suffered at the hands of lots of college football fans when he did not graduate. And eventually went back and got his degree after leading Ohio State to a national championship. Wow.
Ghetto.
My man was in college for 6 years and didn't graduate. How was he eligible, bro?
Yeah, because you got to be a grad transfer or a grad to have six. No, I guess you don't. You can keep spanning it out because he ain't paying for his tuition. So I guess if he can keep finding ways to pay for it, it is what it is.
That's wild. That dude really didn't graduate from college?
After that first championship, he probably was like, I don't need a degree. I got a championship ring in the state of Georgia. That is his certificate, a championship.
Hey, my quarterback just graduated 2 weeks ago. I'm good.
Who?
Justin Fields. He got his degree.
Said he went back and got his
He
on.
got his. Considering he only spent 2 years at Ohio State. Yeah. That's your boy, Stetson Bennett. I had to do some research on this. There's no way he should have been eligible. 6 years at the school? And my man still hasn't graduated? I mean, you can walk even if you have to get more credits. He didn't even walk. Man, look. Great show. We got to get out of here. Have a great Tuesday, but most of all, make sure that you spin it different.